Welcome to the Sound Mind podcast, where I invite interesting guests from the music field and discuss with them topics such as musical and personal growth, pursuing excellence and self-talk, body and mind maintenance, practice and work routines, music business, and more. I'm your host, Michael Krustel, and welcome to the Sound Mind podcast. On today's episode, I have a really cool guest. Her name is Aleksandra Šuklar, and she is an incredible percussionist and marimba artist. She is currently also touring venues and arenas worldwide with a famous movie composer Hans Zimmer in his band of soloists in projects The World of Hans Zimmer and Hans Zimmer Live. She is also occasionally recording soundtracks for Hollywood productions. She recorded recently soundtracks for SpongeBob and even the movie Dune. But the biggest reason why I wanted her to join me on this podcast and to have a talk with her is because ever since I met her, and that goes already back in my teenage years, she always had that spark, that drive for excellence. Seeing her perform and also seeing her work and prepare for concerts was always like, wow, this is an incredible level of focus and dedication. And I am extremely pleased and extremely grateful that we can have a discussion and to ask her a few questions, and we are going to be able to share this podcast with you. So I hope that you will enjoy and have fun. Welcome, Alexandra, and thanks for being on this podcast, and even for being the first guest on this podcast. I find it amazing honor to have you here. Hi.
Hi, thank you so much for inviting me to be on your podcast. What an introduction you made. I mean,
yeah. And in my opinion,
it's a bit, I feel like,
yeah. And in my opinion, I would add even something like a side note would be like, even though she is classically trained, she can keep time, which is like absolutely rare for. I think that's a skill that you
hopefully.
That's something what I was always like, man, this girl, awesome. Yeah.
Oh God.
So basically half of this podcast was already the interview introducing your basic achievements and that. So but tell me, Alexandra, how does your how should I say, regular day look like? Like how do you start your just a regular day?
Well, when I'm in Vienna, where I'm based, I can tell you now the routine that I'm trying to maintain since maybe the last couple of weeks. So I normally wake up, do some sort of exercise, either yoga or I go for a run. And then slowly I come to my studio where I practice or create for something that is upcoming. Then I have a little break. And then some days in the week, I continue with afternoon session, practice session, or whatever I have to work on, or I squeeze in the office work, which is also somehow mandatory, parallel to the creative part. That's how most of the days look like.
And when did you was incorporating this morning routine such as sports and yoga, was that always in your frame, or was that something you added recently, or how is with that?
Well, I unfortunately I have a problem that I cannot stick to one sport activity for too long, so I just go with the flow. What what I vibe with the most. So at the moment, I really enjoy running and doing yoga. But for example, I also enjoyed for a couple of months just going to the gym and spending time there. Sometimes I really like to take some dance classes, dance lessons. But that's more of, let's say, soul food, like yoga and running. This makes me feel good, but I know that it's primarily for health. But in case I go to some dance lesson, then it's definitely for soul and my inner fulfillment.
So when we see you performing with Hans Zimmer and suddenly he pulls you out to dance with you, that's like the fruit of, those are the fruits of your dancing classes, right?
Let's call it like that. Yeah.
Okay. And I'm also curious about, do you have a specific time frame or like that, let's say your warm-up routine on the instrument? Is that something what you go through a checklist every time before you start doing some more session stuff or some recording? How is it about that?
Well, honestly, it really depends because percussion is such a versatile group of instruments. So depending on which instruments I'm currently working on, my warm-up also varies. So if I'm, for example, preparing some mainly focused on marimba, then I do some scales on marimba. If I have to perform something more multi-percussion oriented, then I would definitely invest some time on warming up on a snare drum or practice pad or something like that. And if I have to do both, then I tend to just implement both kinds of warm-ups in it, which can be either scales or just some etudes on snare drum or some exercises that we normally have as percussionists. So yeah, that would be some sort of a starting out. But of course, it also depends what the schedule is, how tight the next performance is, and how challenging it is. And if it's something new that I have to learn, then of course, maybe the warm-ups tend to shorten up and just to dedicate as much time to learning the new thing.
Exactly. And how then, so for example, when you are working on a new performance or a new piece for an upcoming concert, then as you say, that would be in the majority of the focus of your practice. And do you have, let's say, as the date of the concert is approaching, let's say you have a week to perform something new or like a specific performance, maybe even like some solo situation. Is there like a gradual, more intense training to it? You know what I mean? Like, does it through as the days are closing in? Do you have more like, okay, now I'm really doing this more, now I'm maybe playing through, or how can you maybe explain a little bit about that? I'm really curious.
Yeah, well, definitely. If it's 1 week to the performance, I if it's a solo recital or solo with orchestra, then it's definitely primarily focused on that. And I try to, let's say, maybe play through for someone also prior to the whatever, either if it's concert or first rehearsal, maybe once or twice. And also I try to practice it in different tempi and fixing the details, which, because there are always certain spots that are tricky in each piece, at least my experience is like that. So I really tend to polish as much as possible those tricky spots until the day of performance.
So you would then isolate, let's say, pieces of compositions and like then in what you mentioned that you practice with different tempos, did that mean that you also play around with the general? Actually, this one has two questions. So these exercises that you take out, that means that you start them slow and then build them up to normal tempo. That is the first one. The second one is does the changing of the tempo mean also the global composition? Do you also play it slow and then speed it up, or did you just mean the critical spots of the compositions?
Yeah, sometimes I just play them slower, much slower than the original tempo, simply to get again, just to clarify it yet again, because just to really having control if everything sits in slow tempo as well as in fast, I mean, original tempo. And secondly, the tricky phrases I normally play through and then I go back to them, or I just repeat them while I'm playing through and then I move on to the next spot.
And actually now I have a question regarding your musical, how should I say, musical journey. Yeah, maybe that's a cool name. So as I mentioned before in that beautiful introduction that I've read for our listeners, you basically started off with a violin and then moved to the percussion. And I'm curious, how and why did that happen? And yeah, can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, I played violin, and my since I come from musical family, my parents were somehow really wanting me to at least finish as we have in Slovenia, the primary music school of violin, which is 6 years, 6 grades, 6 years of learning the instrument. But after 3 years of playing in my 4th or 5th year, I remember that I really had crisis. Like I really didn't want to, first of all, practice the violin. And secondly, I somehow didn't see myself. I didn't even want to finish this primary school. But they said, but listen, if you started, you have to, you have to make a complete, some sort of thing that you're starting. You cannot just change your mind in the middle. And then I said, okay. And then I continued, but then the next struggle again kicked in, and I was like, oh, I'm really struggling with this. And at the same time, while I was thinking about quitting the violin, somehow it appeared that I really felt strongly connected. I mean, I noticed that I feel strongly connected to the rhythm. And whenever I would hear some beats or groove or something, it would really strongly, innerly move me. And then I said that I want to play drums first, right? I want to play like drum set. And my parents then hesitated for a while. I think it took in total 1 year until I really convinced them that I really want to play drums or percussion. And then it came really like a surprise. It was end of the school year. I was at that time still 10, turning 11. And when they told me that they inscribed me to percussion lessons. And yeah, that was a really, really nice surprise. And immediately, as I started playing percussion, I really felt, which is really helpful, the whole environment of percussion is just simply the professors that I had. They were really so cool and so welcoming, and the whole environment is just simply somehow the vibe that I enjoyed a lot to be in, and yeah, it simply felt right.
Yeah, I mean, I do know a little bit about the music school that you visited, because we both come from the same town. And it is true, like the percussionists on that school were always a little bit cool, like it was this little community that was happening, and like imagining that you guys would sometimes practice together in the same room with other loud instruments. Like that's just insane. How, you know, when I practice, I'm bothered if a car passes by sometimes, and I'm like, ah. Imagine, like, I think you guys went even through some special focus training, some mindfulness training unknowingly by doing that. And wow, thank you for sharing this story. On the other hand, I'm also curious, since you're coming from a family of musicians, basically, your dad being one of the greatest composers in Slovenia. Yeah, your sisters also, one of them, I think it's playing, correct me if I'm wrong, playing the violin at the was it the Vienna Philharmonics or something like that, or
Radio Symphony Orchestra.
Right, correct. I'm curious, how was, and even like your mom also, she even gave me lessons as well as your dad in music. So
yeah, to me too.
Yeah, exactly. How was this environment for you? Like, how was this? On one side, you had this composer dad, and you know, knowledge in all its glory, and yeah, musical family. How can you maybe talk a little bit about that?
Well, the thing is that growing up in family of musicians, to me, it felt, and it still feels, really normal, right? Because for me, it was nothing unusual that my dad is a composer and my mom, conductress, later on also a teacher in the high music school, which we both visited, and sister violinist. Yeah, I don't know. It was, I mean, it was always very much music focused. It was a lot of classical music being played at our home since I was a child. There was a lot of classical music, just simply what was at the time on like CD players and things, and well, it still is. Whenever I come home, there is either like mezzo program on, or program Ars Slovenia, which is known for right, classical music. So yeah, I really grew up. I have memories, definitely memories of this. But we were, of course, always also singing a lot, either at home or on our road trips, because we were often traveling from Serbia to Slovenia. So yeah, then we would have like 4 voices songs on road trips. So yeah, but these are really nice memories. I mean, now that I think, probably not many people have this kind of experience, but for me it was really normal.
Yeah, sounds
usual.
Yeah, sounds very precious indeed. And was it ever a strong calling also, for example, I maybe one day also want to become a composer, or how was that? Because yeah, as a musician, you can be, and you are in different roles, right? Like you're either a co-creator or then a soloist or sideman, or like, was there maybe a specific calling? Like, did you feel a calling stronger from one side? And if so, why is that so?
Well, honestly, I really, first of all, enjoy learning new things in the instruments from the pieces that are being written already, because it challenges you in a way, depending, of course, of the level of the piece, but it challenges you first to learn something new, and then to master whatever these technical specialities this piece can have, that you just improve your playing also with that. So that's something that I really enjoy doing. But on the other hand, now in terms of composing, I never really felt a strong call for it. It would be sometimes here and there something, but nothing really serious. It was just a bunch of some ideas. So now I've started digging into the world of creating some music maybe a couple of months ago, and it's a completely different approach, because like, oh, I have to be creative and it should be some idea and I have to develop it and it has to become a piece. So like it doesn't come just like that. I mean, obviously, I guess once you have more experience with it, I guess it maybe moves in a different way, but it's just it's in a way challenging, because you can I know that I can just sit like for 1 hour trying out things, or 2 or 3, and then I just it's still not, it's not there yet, simply. Like, so I don't know, maybe, but probably you have more experience with this.
Yeah, I think it's the same like practicing an instrument. You just sit with it, right? Like, and you dedicate time, and some days something cool shows up, some days nothing at all, but I really see it like just dedicating time to it. That's literally the best what I can do. But and yeah, sometimes like we say, oh, today it was kind of an unfocused or something practice, you know. But that's out of my hands. My hands are like being there, sitting with it, you know. And then the train sometimes stops, sometimes just goes by and ignores me. But I'm also curious, like, since you're such a high level musician, did you ever have moments of, you know, let's say, what is Alexandra's self-talk, you know, when it comes to the days when there's like little, how do you call it, little inside energy to do things? Like, I'm curious, what's your self motivation to continue for this excellence, for this, yeah, how do you pursue this path?
You mean, are you asking me about the when maybe there is a day when it goes a bit,
Correct.
when
Yeah,
the
for example,
motivation is not there? Yeah,
when
yeah.
the low, when you know you still have the freaking concert happening, but your energy is low or whatever. So I'm curious a little bit, how do you tackle that? Like, what is the self-talk that you give?
Well, I think first of all that in the moments when if there is no specific, if the motivation is not at its highest, let's say, I think that important thing is to take day by day to do something nice for yourself. So no matter how challenging or how important this next concert for you is, I think it's important to really take care of yourself in a way as well. Like, I don't know, whatever relaxes you, maybe reading a book, maybe going to the spa. I don't know. It depends who does what is the specific thing for each person. Because I had times when I think it was literally, I don't know, I did sometimes some unlogical things, but I had to do them. Like, I remember I had 10 days before my solo recital, I had like every evening performance in the opera of something completely else that was like 3 hours long. But at the same time, I had to practice the solo repertoire that I had to perform the day after the last performance of the opera. So I know that I was really, it was really like, oh my God, I had to make this happen. So I know that I was just really, I had to like, I think I was like, I had to like have just like moment, bathtub and like nothing, just, I don't know, 15 minutes a day, however, just to like relax. Because to me, meditation in those cases, it doesn't really help, I have to say. Maybe it does a little, but I don't tend to, it doesn't really make an effect when it's like really uptight. So I think it's important for everyone to discover what is the thing that can relax you. And just for a bit, so you can just know that, you know, you have to also take credit for your work, what you are actually working. You cannot just be like, oh, but it's just that no, you have to actively practice 5 hours a day, and then you have at least 3 hours of the opera in the evening. So yeah, just to find something that makes you go through this in a bit easier way.
Mm. And do you also sometimes practice like, I know I started this recently, is a day of nothing. Like, do you
Oh
maybe do
yeah,
that as well? Like
yeah.
in a week, you would choose, okay, Sunday, nothing day. You know, I know sometimes I depends on your schedule, of course, but do you also do that, or yeah?
I do that, but sometimes this happens. Normally, it can happen very spontaneously, because if I don't have any, let's say, concert that it's happening shortly, that I have a lot of time until the next thing, then it can happen really spontaneously, and then I'm just like, well, okay, maybe today I should just take a day off and read a book or go to swim to the Danube or something. It's nice to combine all these things, but sometimes it just happens that it comes. I don't have, though, a specific day in a week, because it's my schedule is, it's still somewhat, I don't know how to say this word in English. I know it in German, but
Unfixed, let's
I'll
say.
yeah, exactly. It's not like really
Yeah,
like a fixed timetable.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And you were mentioning now a couple of times, you already mentioned reading books. What do you enjoy reading? What are you currently reading, maybe?
Well, I just finished a book by our Slovenian author Ewald Flisar. I finished his book, which is called The Father's Letters to the Son, so which are basically his letters to his son. And it's a really wonderful book. I don't think that this one, I'm not sure it has been translated, but there is his #1 book that it's translated in like over, I don't know, 40 languages, The Sorcerer's Apprentice. In Slovenian, it's, if you want to read it, Čarovnikov vajenec.
Was that maybe
So
the
that
thing?
that
Was that the thing that the movie was also recorded on, or maybe that's another one? You know, with Nicolas Cage, or
no, I think
that's
that's
probably
another
something
one.
else.
No,
Probably.
they were planning to work on that movie, I think, with Robert Redford included, but then I think because of some financial situation, it finally didn't work out. But like, I'm really impressed by this writer, because I met him personally. I was one of the his book presentations in Slovenia in March, I think, and yeah, now finally I read this one to the end. And yeah, but normally I read just, I don't know, really different kinds of books. Either it's like novels, or it's something on like self-growth, positive psychology, and so on.
Wonderful. And did you in all this? Sorry, I think I'm jumping now from topics, but it just sometimes just things pop up. Did you ever had moments like, well, I think I really shouldn't do this anymore, like musically, or did that ever come? And yeah, like feelings of doubt, and did that ever enter?
You mean that I completely quit music?
Yeah. That you would, for example, say, okay, this is a little bit weird, or like, how, yeah.
Yeah, funny enough, it did happen. But I think it was never that strong that I would say I want to quit completely. I know, let me just go back to like high school, because my parents, I have to really say, they never forced me to do music. They wanted me to finish this primary school, but they never said you must be a musician. They really said you can do really whatever you want. If you want to do something else, just do something else. Like, you're not obliged to be a musician. So I know that maybe at the end of the high school, there was a first moment when I was thinking, should I maybe try out something else? Because I was interested also in, I don't know, for example, languages, and I thought maybe it would be cool to study some language properly, some other language. But yeah, I have to say that it has never been strong enough to just say, no, I don't want to do this anymore. Because in the pure essence, I really love percussion. The pure essence is that I love percussion. And I know that whatever the reason was that would make me want to think of quitting was not my love towards the instrument, but were the circumstances outside of it. So yeah, I can just say that this love towards percussion has always won, simply.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing this story. And yeah, it is true, right? Like as long as the core is healthy and that inner how you say, yeah, just maybe the value, why are you doing this, right? You can always kind of, storms are gonna fly behind you, and trees are gonna fall, whatever, and it's great that that you find yourself still, and thanks to whoever, right? Because otherwise, you wouldn't be making this fantastic music that you do. And I also have a question. What do you find the most challenging as being a musician? Like, what is for you the most challenging aspect of this musician life?
Well, for me at the moment, being a freelancer, the most challenging thing is having this force within you to push you forward when you are on your own, in terms many things depends just on you. And this self-motivation, work towards something else, even like just making yourself grow, but that everything has to come from you, I think that can be sometimes challenging, because you are in a way your own boss, and you have to set your deadlines to yourself, and there is this fine line: how strict can you be with yourself, how can you just let it go? And I find this at the moment, like, I don't know, maybe next year it will be something else, but for now I would say this, because I don't have anyone who would be mad at me if I don't know, finish a piece until that date, or it's I would say it's this at the moment.
Yeah. And do you follow, or do you use specific methods to keep you in check with your progress and work?
Yeah, I have a kind of at the moment now, I also shift things, because sometimes I always need something new in a way. So now I have a little booklet where I write what should be done for this week, and maybe I just focus on a period of 2 months time. What do I have to do? What has to be accomplished by a certain date? But then, of course, about the long-term goals, it's still to come. I have to focus on that in the next days. But yeah, I always write, like, just to have some kind of an overview, how many hours and how many things have to be dedicated to certain things.
Mm-hmm. And so I asked now about your challenges, and we dove a little bit into that, but on the other hand, or as a contrast to that, I'm curious, what do you find empowering and what do you find great in this being a musician life?
Well, I just love performing, and I think that performance in front of people and that adrenaline that kicks in and those emotions that you are able to share and pull out from your inside and just transmit them to the audience. I think that's something very unique and very special. And I don't know, there is nothing else that fills me up in that way. It's truly special, and I think everyone who is a musician must be really happy to be just able to share something with the people in that way.
Yeah, great thought. And I always remember you since ever as this, like, how to call it, like a true powerhouse of just doing and getting stuff done. And I remember, like, one of, I think I already mentioned you this before, but it was I think I just got the driving license in Slovenia or something, like, so what was it, like high school or something, and we went to practice at this one music school, and for the first time I was like, because I always thought that I'm a little bit weird because I'm spending time with instrument, and I, like for 3 hours, and and it was so amazing to me to see like another person like driving and I mean driving, like going for it. And like I remember when I went into that, so we came to the music school and like we practiced there. I think it was like a day off because the whole music school was empty. And
it was closed, it wasn't open. Yeah,
right. And I remember that I sat down and I was like, I'm curious how long is this gonna last before she would like to go home, like, and because I like to kind of dive in and like working on it and grinding and and that time and I remember like several times, oh, probably now she's gonna and then the time just didn't come, and I was like, wow, that's so cool. Like I have this, and it was this like maybe the first time, like a tribe feeling, that first, and I didn't even realize it when it was happening then, but maybe a couple of years later, it like in hindsight, I was thinking about it, how cool is that yeah. And also this, like talking to you now and having you on the podcast feels very empowering, that we are able to share, and that you can share your techniques, your process, and that with the listeners and the people watching. With me, definitely what stayed the most was kind of in the beginning when you said, when we were talking about playing and preparing for the concert. I think it's very important to just prepare or make conditions as you would be performing. I think that one is a very strong tool, right? That you just play for someone, that you just try to play it as it would be on the gig, right? Like, and then some things might go wrong, or because when you play the whole set, you just have to wing it. You gotta go, right? So I think that one will definitely stay with me today, and because I find it such a strong and powerful tool, as well as you said, like just do what is up until the concert. That's basically what it means, right? Like giving your full potential already before the concert, so you kind of set the stage. So on another note, where can people get to you? Like where can they find out about you? What do you think is the best? Where are you the most active, so they know what's going around Aleksandra Šuklar music life?
Well, I would say that the most up to date is definitely the Instagram account. So you can find me at aleksandra.šuklar. Then my website, which is aleksandrašuklar.com, and also the Facebook page.
Yeah,
or no?
I think I will. I know I will leave all these infos in the note below the video and in the comments under the audio. And maybe even I'm going to throw in a video or two of you performing. Yeah, I've seen this fantastic video of you performing Mombasa. So I think the audience will appreciate that as well. For now, and I think, yeah, I know that's it. I really, from the depths of my heart, I really thank you. Thank you for having you on this podcast. I really appreciate everything, the ins and outs that you shared with me and us. And yeah, I wish you a successful career further. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much once again for inviting me. It's been a huge pleasure.
If you've enjoyed this podcast, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Also, feel free to share your thoughts and ideas on the topics we've discussed today in the comments, as well as any burning questions you might have for my future guests. I'm your host, Michael Hrustil, and until next time, I wish you a sound mind.